Hello guys, it's Ben here from Second Dynasty with another weekly update. I completely forgot that it was Thursday because this has been a short week. We had our National Day on Monday, so we are a little bit less prepared this week perhaps. Feels a bit slower, we came into this beautiful May weather and now we've hit June, so the Swedish summer has started, which means it's been raining. But for the few days we have been working, we have been beavering away. Albin has been working on the curved walls for the deliveries for Starship The Next Generation, which of course ended last week. And today we are looking at the Beowulf. That's what I've been focusing on pretty much all of this week when we've actually had working hours. I don't have access to the chat, guys, so I can't respond directly, but hello! And you guys might notice there has been a significant amount of progress, especially towards the rear of the ship. So just today, at lunchtime actually, we have another section here that is printable. A few adjustments that might need to be made here, I realized, but I don't think it's going to impact this side of the ship. We'll get into that in a second. If I turn off the lighting here, you can see we've added some nice detail in this engineering compartment. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. But before we get into those details, I thought it would be nice to show you the impact of a few things. So I'm going to get to my close-up cam. Here again, we have the improvements that we've made to the Type 4 shuttle. It's probably hard to see, but before, you can kind of see now that the sort of shield generator area here is a lot rounder and a lot smoother, and in fact you can see too that the smoothness of the Type 4 now matches here as well. So we've actually gone back and done the whole underside of the hull. I have done the bottom part, but I don't think I've test printed it yet. You can kind of see there, I guess one of the doors fell off, but you can see the independent landing gear door that you just snap in. There are a few improvements to be made there. But it's well on its way. I'd like to close off some of these cracks if I can. I feel like the crack is slightly annoying, and if it would make it difficult for some interior lighting, so I'm wondering if maybe there should be like a lip or something on the inside that'll just make it, if not fit more exactly, at least like take care of some of the light leakage. The big thing, the big and heavy thing, oh, she's a big girl. She is a big girl. The door I'm not happy with the way that it's working at the moment. It was a nice concept. I don't know exactly how I'm going to revise it by the end of things. I do like the functionality, but right now it's not holding in place very well, so this needs a rethink. But you can see it's coming together. There are some issues with the print that I did do. This is quite heavy now. I feel more comfortable holding this with two arms. I haven't weighed it, but I'm guessing we're getting closer to the 4 kilo mark. So I'm going to estimate that we're probably closer to 6.5 to 7 kilos for this one. So yes.
So people said that the Alpha as well as the Beowulf looks good and lovely, and all different kind of wonderful words.
Well, let's be fair. John said lovery, so.
Oh yeah. Don't know what he means about that.
Loverly.
It's
Lovery.
for
I think I'm just developing this late stage dyslexia. So yeah, we are moving on. The main problem with some of these prints is the actual print times. Like this one here, it has a print time of something like 12 hours per piece. The one we put on earlier was 19 hours, I think, and that was just like, let's see, it was this piece and this piece. So I wasn't quite happy with the way things were connecting together. I'm not sure about how to solve this door because I don't want to ruin the aesthetics either. So I don't know yet exactly how I'm going to solve that, but I don't want to change it too much either because I don't want to reprint too much of the ship. 7 kilos is about 3/4 of an American watermelon. Wow. So I don't know exactly. We could actually weigh it. Albin, why don't you go and get the scales and weigh the ship and see what you come up with?
I think Sormo talked about printing profiles as well.
Oh yeah, on the Discord and on Zorima's channel, he put up some revised profiles for printing. I haven't tried them out myself yet because I want to keep the same profiles throughout this print. And our Prusa kind of feels like it needs some tuning up, to be honest. Albin's going to weigh that ship off camera. May as well weigh the Shuttle Alpha 2, although it doesn't have the interior. So we're going to be working on the engineering section today. We have the landing gear section to work on. I've kind of figured out how this is going to connect together now. This will be in like one piece. Actually, we can probably merge these components. That'll be one piece. This will be one piece. And then I figured this actually will slot into there. But this bottom section here will print sort of separately. So you can kind of see the segregation there. And that is in line with this floor.
2,296 grams.
I was way off. It's only 2.2. Fuck, I'm weak. Only 2.2 kilos.
Yeah. Almost 3.
Almost.
3.
What?
Almost 2.3.
Almost 2.3. Well, I don't know what I'm on about. It's
kind of hot in here as well. Might be delirium.
It could be. Or it could be that someone has not trained at all during COVID.
Oh, god damn it. Yeah, I feel it now. Shuttle Alpha is 469 grams.
Wow, so we're still probably going to be hitting around about the 1 kilo mark, maybe slightly less with this one, because I think the pieces will be slightly more dainty. Thank you, Albin.
Oh, you're welcome.
Have to remember to turn off the scale.
Very
So yeah, the main features that we have built in and that we're working on here, let's go back to that. The fuel tanks, I mean, I didn't want to detail these too much because in practice, it wouldn't look anything like this. I mean, this is not the right kind of environment to store liquid hydrogen. There are not on the deck plans any indication that there is any sort of like access panels to the fuel section, right? However, I thought it was a good idea to have some. So I've added a section there, and I've also added a section here where you could get to maintenance for, I guess this thing is the filter for, you know, if you're
making moonshine.
No, not moonshine. If you're picking up the fuel in a gas giant, right? It's being processed, and you're processing out a bunch of waste gases that aren't being used. So this section is for like the exhaust, waste, I guess, expulsion from the ship. So there is like this little room in here. It's undetailed. It's not going to be detailed. You're not going to be able to get anything in there. But in case you do want to remove the panel, I've left the option to have a removable panel. And the reason I made this open is just like if you want to get a paintbrush in there to just like base coat it or something, or even paint it black, you can now do so. Will I come back and detail it in some stretch goal? I doubt it. It's not a part of the ship that's really supposed to be accessible. But I thought it would just be a nifty little thing. So technically you could hide a mini in there if you wanted to, I guess. Might be a bit cramped, but you know, maybe the stowaway miniature. Perfect section for the stowaway miniature from Starship 5. Yes, sorry, my fuel scoop is the word I was looking for. We have this piping coming out of there. I haven't detailed it on the other side, but the idea is that this comes out of the wall and feeds up into, let's see, turn on deck B, into the jump drives, right? So these pipes are a continuation. If we grab these pipes and this floor and this, you can see that that all aligns up. Well, you might not be able to exactly see, but it pretty much aligns up. The thing I didn't think about when I was putting the stuff in on this side is the fact that, oh shit, I just moved that. Is the fact that I didn't think about the fact that the, let's take this floor off again, that the actual power plant has this piping that leads into the wall. Now, to be perfectly honest, for the small amount of fuel that the power plant does consume, this is completely unnecessarily large. So we could technically scale that down, but I kind of wanted to keep things as close to the Type S drives as possible, because as I've mentioned in past streams, we've reclaimed a lot more space. Again, if we look at these deck plans and you look at the space here, the main changes we've made, let me zoom in here a little bit maybe. So the main changes we've made to the lower deck is, A, it's not as claustrophobic. You can properly stand up in it. This is just a side effect. It's kind of hard to see from the side, but this is a side effect of, you know, having slightly increased the height of the ship as it is, because we needed the floor plates to be thicker and whatnot. And to be perfectly honest, I mean no offense to Mark or this particular iteration, but this is a 2D deck plan. It hasn't been thought out in a 3D space. And, you know, this lower drive compartment, it does not make sense if you're going to have, you know, a power control panel down there. What are you going to sit there with, like, you'd have to crouch to be down in there, right? So it would make more sense, actually, if you took this deck plan and this deck plan and shifted it up by one tile, right? Because you do actually have the headroom there. And we still have quite a lot of headroom in here. I can stick the A deck on here. So you can see there's a ton of clearance still between... Oops. Like there's more than standard above this deck. So it's still kind of like true to the original. Of course, we do have to have the thicker floors because of the open lock style. But... you know, the machinery that's shown in this deck plan doesn't actually follow its own rules. So here we have the T5 Type A Free Trader, and we have the Type S Scout Courier. And if we look at the statistics here, this has acceleration 2, jump 2, and power 2. But whilst the Free Trader has acceleration 1, jump 1, and maneuver 1. Sorry, not maneuver 1, but power 1. But if we look at the actual tonnage here, and also here, I think there's a way to highlight these, but I haven't gotten into it. They're the exact same tonnage, and that is because essentially they are the exact same drives, power plants, and maneuver and jump drives in both these two ships. The difference is, in this hull, it's only pushing 100 tons. In this hull, it's pushing 200 tons. So essentially, what is a 222 becomes a 111 because it is pushing twice the weight. At least that is the thought here. So technically, if we're looking in these deck plans, again, there are more squares here being taken up than there need to be. Now, we did make the ship slightly longer, so the power plant actually fits more comfortably in here. And on the other side, I mean, we're going to make this, I think, so that you could technically... The thing is, you could technically upgrade the machinery in the engine room without having to take up any more actual space. Or I guess these squares would be used for some kind of storage in an emergency situation where, you know, you just... I don't know. Overweight. But, I mean, the deton was never meant to be an exact thing. It's, you know, to within 90%. But I'm assuming with the deck plans here too, the extra squares, like for example, the maneuver drives here, you've got 3 and then 3 there, but even 3 and 3 there, and so that would be 3 half squares times 4. It's 6 squares. So and then some on the outside. So it isn't. It's not really. It's more than it needs to be. Like, if we look, it's meant to be 2 tons, so that should be 4 squares. This is 6 squares, right? Assume some of that is because either it's being pressed down or that these deck plans actually show a ship that, you know, has modified engines. But the jump drives here should only be 10 squares to a side. They're significantly more. I thought at first some of this might just be because we were trying to compensate for the headroom down here. It's really just a general... Yeah, it just doesn't match the statistics. So our Beowulf is actually going to be closer to the intended statistics. I mean, all artwork's an interpretation of the concept, right? Anyway, so this is just another form of artwork. So I'm not dismissing those deck plans. It's certainly a Beowulf variant, right? And the way that Mark sees it very much is like, what we're creating is a Beowulf variant. We're creating a Type S variant. We're creating a Type J variant. These ships are just variants of all of those ships. So there's nothing that is wrong in any of the Traveller editions. It's just, you know, it might be a different rule set, different configuration, different look, but there's a lot of variance in a, you know, a partial galactic empire, right? So that's what we're working with. This pipe on the opposite side is now unfortunately merged there, which means we need a custom job for this other side, which is fine because, I mean, we do need to mirror these signs. These are now mirrored. Oh, there's a little red bit there. We need to get rid of that. Let's do that real quick. Albin seems impressed by the red bit.
Red color. Wow.
Yeah, did we mention there's not too much air in here? Lisa-Lot is here as well in the background. She's just quiet. She waves to you guys.
I mean, to be fair, the chat is kind of out there as well.
Is it? You haven't said anything about the chat. I haven't been reading the chat.
They're measuring everything in cantaloupes, and we should not cover the fuel storage because that could be habitats for... let's see what it's called. They are called cetacean crew members. So that's like dolphin crew members, stretch goal perhaps.
Aha, right.
But then you needed to have a safari ship instead because they have the different hulls.
Yeah, if you want to build this into a zoo variant, feel free to do that. But I will not be doing that. And that will not be a stretch goal. Sorry, guys. I have also ported in the drives from the Type S. Now, I'm not happy with these in particular. These seem off slightly. Don't they seem off? I don't know what it is. If I put the deck B interior, are these drives not lining up correctly? They are. It's just an illusion. But yeah, compared to the original ones, I can turn the draft board on and you can kind of see they are considerably larger, although not as deep. So This is the draft board is my sort of like all the pieces I used to build it. Look at this mess. This is why we've got a massive, 2 gig file size at the moment. So I eventually, when I'm happy with it, I'll be saving out a new version. That's the print version, right, where we get rid of all of this crap. But this is like this sort of like a sketch book, if you will. So we've got elements from the Type S that we want to reuse in this ship, for example. I was very close yesterday to importing some of the pipes that we used in Starship The Next Generation, but ultimately I thought it was more suiting to use the existing ones. So we have these pipes coming up through the floor. When I imported the old jump drives, which I want to reuse as much as possible, I did notice that because of the different floor paneling, this pipe sort of disappears down there. So what I thought we might work on today is a little piece of machinery that just can be like the pump house, I guess. And then these pipes go down into the floor here instead. So we need to do a modification of this floor panel, kind of similar to what we had in the Type S version. Mayday, this is the free trader petting zoo. I mean, it's not too weird. We rolled a random name on our Beowulf and we found it in our campaign, and we ended up with the Racing Beat. So it was kind of like this Dwight Schrute-esque version of a Beowulf. So the first thing I'm going to do, since we already have another copy of this, is actually eliminate those pipes. Because essentially we're having the pipes being fed through here, right? So we need a little piece of machinery here that would, because in the Type J we had a constrained space. It had the opposite issue where the deck plans didn't show enough machinery and it was too cramped, so we were making the assumption that there's more machinery hidden underneath the floor and whatnot. Here we have the opposite effect where we need to take up 10 squares on each side, because that's 5 tons each, right? And again, if we look at the, let's see, we want the jump drive, it says here 10 tons, right? So each ton is 2 squares. So for 10 ton, we need 10 squares on this side, 10 squares on that side, right? And essentially, from what Mark has explained, it's not necessarily that it just takes up a volume of 10 tons for the machinery, but also access, and it's not just the engines themselves, right? So the engines take up the bulk of, let's say, 6.5 squares if we subtract some of the room around them, right? But then you've got, these pipes going in, and we'll have the pump there. Question is what this pump is going to look like. We do have also these on the top with all the power leads going up into the ceiling. Now, this made sense in the Type S because, of course, the attic deck is where the power plant is housed. But in the case of the Type A, the power plant is downstairs. And at the moment, instead of trying to rearrange the deck plans too much, like we have this, I guess we did rearrange that control panel a little bit. Where am I going? Here. So there was a control panel over here. I've moved it over to here because we do have like half a square more there. And basically the ship ended up a bit wider at the rear. And we also moved these landing pads forward. So they're flush with the wall, because it made little sense to me that, A, the ship would be more stable if the landing pads were slightly closer to this bulkhead. And B, how you meant to access all this as an engineer if something goes awry. It seems like it's not well planned. And I'll probably add a couple of little bits and pieces in here when we complete it. Essentially, of the aft section, this is the only piece at the moment that's printable, so everything else you see in here is a placeholder.
Oh, we got some suggestions concerning the engine room. One was about the fuel pipes, that it would be nice with the machinery part with a secondary filter. And the other point was that there needs to be ancillary services. You would find a ship's engineering section like sewage treatment, HVAC, freshwater systems, pumps for the hydraulics and stuff like that.
If this was a real ship, there would need to be those things. This is not a real ship. And we're just... I hear what you're saying, and in an ideal world, I'd love to do all that stuff, but A, I don't have the time to research what it looks like now. B, I don't have the time to visualize what it would look like in the future. C, we're living in a future where they've literally got anti-gravity technology and fusion power plants. They may just like... the toilet might just, incinerate poo. The water might come from different areas. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the video that was sent of engineering, and it's really cool, and it looks much more manageable and accessible in there. But we're trying to work with these constraints. And ideally, I'd love to line all these walls with machinery that seem to make sense. And maybe yet we'll add in some pumps or that sort of thing, so it looks like it's a bit more fancy. I don't know, but again, February we started on this. After Albin probably spent a month exploring the design in the first place. Mind you, this was when he was first onboarded at Second Dynasty, so he was learning the ropes as he went. But say that a couple of weeks were spent designing or just trying to interpret the original design. I took that as a sketch, turned it into a more solid rough draft of where we wanted to go with the hull. So February, March, April, we spent April pretty much on the what's it called? Starship: The Next Generation things. Because I did most of the engineering. Albin did the corridors. Of course, now Albin's doing everything post-campaign. So that took out a month, but then May I started, during the campaign I was back on the ship again, along with the shuttle. So we're at this point close to 4 months in, and that's 4 months of expenses. And we ran 6 or 7 months with the Type S, and it was not feasible to do anything longer than that. When we launched that campaign, we were in the red. The campaign solved that issue, but so there always is a point where you have to say, okay, here is where we have to do a cutoff. Now, what would be possible if we have, some decent concepts to go off where you can say, okay, put this machinery in this corner, we visualize it like this, here is a mood board or, inspiration for what we can do, or we can repurpose these other Second Dynasty parts pretty quickly. Then we could potentially say, okay, we give the engine room some polish as a stretch goal, right? That makes more sense because we can then go back and embellish. But doing it now doesn't make sense. And the other thing too is I'd like to make it fairly modular so that, if you want to turn this into a jump 2, maneuver 2, power 2 version of the ship, we can just mirror this power supply. That would probably actually be more like power 3, because I don't believe tonnage wise that it isn't doubled as you go up in power. I think from jump 2, if jump 2 was 10 tons, jump 3 would be 14 tons. But then you have the fuel requirements, which is 30% of the ship. So you need another, 20 tons extra fuel. So basically adding these 10 squares here and these 10 squares here as additional fuel in a bladder. It's actually not that bad when you think about it, because you're doubling it up on each side. So 5, oh no, that's it, yeah. Yep, 10 squares and 10 squares because we're double high. So yeah, that will be possible. That's the idea. Like, I mean, we can't customize too much about the front of the ship. You could potentially change, like, have an empty version of the med bay, for example, if you don't want to have all the features. But because of the way the hull works and, you know, the curvature of the ship, there's only so much we can actually do. Let's see. Did you know Tribes gets you access to 3DO and the ability to vote on new models and miniatures? Oh, John, are you advertising? Are you advertising? That's cheeky, John. Well done, John. Our Tribes has done fantastic. I was not expecting the retention that we got. I think I talked about this last week, though, so I'll shut up about it today. I really do like Shadow Liger's removable... forgive me if it was someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was Shadow Liger that suggested the removable panels. I put one on each side of this, so there's like a little tunnel. Just because, you know, that's liquid hydrogen. I don't think you just want one little panel or something. Not that there's much room on the other side, but I love ships and spaceships, and I have a fairly decent functional knowledge about how things... Like, I try to be practical and make the designs look functional, but there gets to be points where it's like, no, I haven't worked in the Navy, or I have, or an actual modern ship, or that sort of thing, and there's things that you forget about, like the plumbing, which, you know, now that you mention it, is bloody obvious. But then a lot of that, I'm guessing too, because we don't detail it, is actually on the undersides of the floors. Because if you look at most science fiction, a lot of the pipes and lighting features that make it feel sci-fi are actually in the ceiling, and we never get to detail that. So, I mean, here the idea is to have the same engines as the Type S, which means that, you know, with a little bit of modification, we can take our pre-existing light kits, and maybe you would just store a battery in a little box there. But my other idea was that if we left a little channel through the wall or something here, maybe we could actually stick the battery pack in the fuel tanks that, you know, are not really being used for anything. But structurally, I am a little concerned about how the ship is going to look and go together. So we do have some support rods that are in place. These here are essentially all about the support rods, right? So the support rods that go into the front of the ship, they're on an angle, they end here, and hold that in place. And then there's supposed to be support rods for the C deck here, but I do have some rods, but I need to cut them down to size, and I do not have the... I don't have a metal saw at the moment. We don't really have a workshop. We actually have like a maker space for seniors right next door, but we haven't been brave enough to go and introduce ourselves yet. I'm hoping they might have some painters down there too. There is a model train club, and apparently they've hired the entire basement, which is a considerably large space. And I heard they're pretty hardcore about their trains.
We got another suggestion concerning the engine room.
No.
It's a stretch goal, though, so it's not the core.
All right. Oh, good.
Straight out of Galaxy Quest with chompers and stuff.
Oh yes, I've heard about. I don't think this is a large enough ship for convoluted plot point machinery. But yeah, there should be some like death fans when you go through this look for no good reason. That's a very funny film. Strongly recommended.
Yes.
Alright, so what were we doing? We were going to be on B deck, and we were going to make this little pump. So do we have anything pump-like? We have this. How are we going to repurpose that? I don't know. I think, in all honesty, I might just build some kind of roof ceiling bridge or something like that, that it goes up to the ceiling and then runs down into the power plant or something like that. I really don't know just yet. Because it might be good to have some kind of structural support in here that you could lift off that would also just brace that the garage that's on the level above. Just so that there's, you know, something holding it in place. So nothing too big, but like just some kind of like what we have here, supporting the engines, right? But going up into the ceiling, and then maybe we could use this space down here to just feed the cables down into the power plant, and these could be mirrored potentially on the other side as well, so that you could reuse things. And the idea being that these floors should be fairly modular to allow for larger engines, although honestly I think the power plants might be slightly more of an issue. Although I guess instead of making these larger, we could just make them deeper, I guess. Because you could argue that, you know, 1.5 meters is a lot of clearance. You could probably live with 75 centimeters. It would be tight, but, you know, yeah.
Columns with mechanical features.
Something like that. Just to make it a bit more busy. But let's turn off the deck A, and I want to look at the power plant itself to see if it's got anything pump-like. I don't want to really start from point 0. So I'm wondering if we have anything. I've saved all the landing gear to last to sort of design. We don't really have any pumps on the levels above. So I'm guessing we might need to like, this feature kind of looks a little pump-like. Kind of. Maybe we can repurpose that to some point. I don't know what it looks like, if it's a complete... Is that a complete... Oh, Albin, you genius. Not really a genius. This is very lazy, but we can reuse that part. So I'm just making a copy. I did not need to change the pivot point. And we could use some of the mounting as well. In fact, the entire cylinder here, if we scale it down, would be kind of pump-like. So I'm thinking we get rid of this thing. What are you giggling at now?
It's Jan.
When is it not?
I heard PowerPoint. I will bring HR in for using such a vile curse word.
Lisa, look, what do you think about PowerPoint?
PowerPoint. I use it all the time.
See,
John,
Lisa lot
she's
uses
corrupt.
Lisa lot uses it all the time, John.
She's corrupted by chaos.
What, Excel's okay, but not PowerPoint? One of us. One of us. I don't know if I really should be getting rid of that just yet, but let's back it up a little. So again, I really just want the cylinder. We do not need all of these mountings. It's a bit excessive when you haven't got like a fusion reactor trying to...
You're just trying to pump fecal matter.
Is that you saying that, or...?
I'm just... Yeah, that's me saying that. God damn it, my throat.
I also have a dry mouth today. We had a bit of a party on the weekend. It seems like we're still feeling some of its effect many days later.
Weak.
Well, old-ish.
That's a good point.
So yeah, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that.
Tamsin said she thinks it will work as well. Just slap a control panel on it.
I mean, it's too big right now, but I mean, we scale this down. I reckon we flip it around like so.
Screwed. Flip it. Turn it. Squeeze.
Uh-oh. The other thing we can do to change the sense of scale here, Obviously, this is way too big. It's probably, I'm going to guess we want it to be half the size. But that is also going to make all of these bolts and things half the size. So some of them are not going to be seen. In fact, most of them are not going to be seen. So I think we can actually just delete these and leave it on the outside instead. And we're probably going to be doing the forbidden Boolean operation. But this is going to be out of scale. So what do we do to solve that? We simply grab these. We make sure the pivot point is going to match this lowest polygon. And then we're also going to make sure in our tools that we've got the relative size set to, actually we're going to just do 1. Because we're doubling the size of this and the one on the other side so that it looks like it's the right size when we scale it all down to half size. Oh my god, guys, I understand. Alright, I mean, these are creating some odd shapes, so I might just triangulate these to make sure that we're not messing around too much. Oh, there's actually some open. Look at that. Why, Albin, that's messy.
Blasted Sabothorn said, upscale your coffee makers from the galley.
So to use coffee makers instead?
As a proxy, I guess, for a pump.
Right. Well, I think since we've started on this, we'll go down to 0.5 now, and we'll see how this looks compared. Now look at that. So it might actually be a little too small now. And ironically, the bolts seem to not be the same size as the other bolts. In fact, these bolts don't even look hexagonal. I never noticed that. These ones look better. Oh, I can't unsee that now.
Oh no. Stretchy ball.
We'll see if I'm going to have to fix that as well, but you can kind of see the idea here, right? We'll also get rid of this semiotic symbol.
Oh god damn it.
What?
It's annoying when you know it. But we've got a good point here. If they're suffering from the weekend's partying, they almost certainly need a upscale coffee maker.
Oh, well, I'm going to blaspheme. I don't actually drink coffee, guys.
Oh my god!
Albin does.
Yeah,
Albin drinks enough coffee for the two of us, in fact.
at least.
Which also explains why Albin is like Albin. But
You thought it was my personality? It's just coffee.
you have a personality? No, I'm just kidding. That was over the line. Liselot's going to be on my case now. Oh, that's it. HR didn't hear. We're all good.
Damn it, HR. I trusted in you. I don't know why though.
It wouldn't be a real HR department if it was functional.
Replace the lithium crystals with Folgers crystals. Instant coffee brand. Okay. And the jump drive runs on Nespresso pods. Oh.
I saw that this morning with the Nostromo film I was telling Albin about, where they said it runs on liquid potassium, and I'm like, are they saying vodka or potatoes? It was an April 1st joke film. So, is it too small now? Is that the question? Or should we lift it up a bit Well, it is too small now for all of those pipes, right? And technically, if you want to get technical, it would make more sense if the actual pump looked larger than the pipes. So, a few things we need to adjust, I guess. So I am going to...
Is this what you call a conundrum?
No. Sorry to disappoint you. This is not a conundrum.
Oh.
This is...
Sparta!
Oh, God. And yet I chose to employ him. Mostly because he's a good sport. He listens to my relentless bullying all day. And doesn't tell us when he cries at home. No, he's a good bloke. Also, he's single, ladies. That was also a thing on the weekend.
Oh, God.
Some of the partners are trying to convince Alban to throw himself out there into the drunken crowd.
Kind of did.
And he kind of did. And then he stepped on ladies' toes and immediately was dismissed. Or ran away in shame. I'm not quite sure which.
That's kind of yeah, that's basically the story.
Oh well. Better luck next time, Alban.
Yeah, I will wear softer shoes.
Let's see if we can align this a bit better before we scale it. Maybe actually that will help us move onto the grid. Okay, that's not really centered either.
Ja.
Alright. Oh, that's not centered. Okay. This is full of surprises. Okay, so this does need to be a little bigger, and I'm thinking the bracing we might actually cut in half and just have it run parallel to the wall here, so there'll be like a wall blocking it off. So I probably do want to increase the size of this by 20% maybe. We'll see. Let's test and see. 20% that would put it at 0.6. So that's probably, it's wide enough here, but again the pumps it doesn't quite feel right. Although maybe the problem is that it's too low down. Let's see if we can raise it up. Maybe that'll address it. If we change this block so it matches that block and put like a little base on it, I guess that is intersecting a little bit, which I don't like. It would have been fine if we wanted to keep all of that floor in, but we're not going to. I don't mind it so much that it hangs over the edge here, but maybe this entire back section here is not necessary. Maybe we can ditch this section. So let's isolate this and see what we've got to work with. So we have... That looks like a power cable or something. I think we can leave that in. We were saying we want to get rid of half of these ones. So let's select some of these and just isolate them. And it should be fairly easy to identify the central sections. There we go. Because what I am thinking is that we're gonna... Oh, the insides weren't closed off. Alban.
Oh, we have hit 275 tribers.
We have?
Yeah.
Why is it going up? I don't understand.
Go down!
I mean, I've got nothing against it going up, but I'm just astounded. How did we get so many?
People like it.
They must like John's program or something.
Yeah.
It's John's fault. It's like he works all day with this stuff or something. Cause he does. So I'm just trying to get rid of some of this unnecessary geometry. I mean, it's not all unnecessary, but this is early work. Let's put it that way. Let's see what kind of a mess this actually is creating now. And what we can get rid of. Because we can have a lot of the times you want a more complicated shape and you increase the fidelity, but you don't always need to increase it in every direction. So in this case, we're just dropping some of that fidelity down so that it's only in the places where we want it, which is really in the bend, right? So, and I've just realized I'm working on the one I wanted to cut off, aren't I? Yep. Oh well, maybe it is still usable. So Control Delete. That's getting rid of these extra loops, edge loops. What does John have to say for himself?
They like you, Ben. And the other ratted him out and said that John has been threatening people in a very polite way.
That actually does sound a lot like John.
That sounds like John. To join the cult tribe, that is.
Oh, I see what's going on now. See, I don't know if people know, but I'm just the figurehead of this cult. I'm the subject of the cult somehow, but I'm not directly involved in the cult. I guess it's so that I can always have plausible deniability when the inevitable murder, suicides start happening. But, yeah.
Oh, we got comments from a triber. He paid for Starship Next Generation and Merchant tier. And he planned on using the Starship pieces for a Space Hulk / Nemesis type games. That sounds nice.
It does.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Happy printing. I hope it goes well for your store. Because the better it goes for you, the better it goes for me.
Oh, did you see that? They actually made a video game of Nemesis.
Nemesis.
Yeah, the kind of the role-playing game, Alien-ish.
Oh, right, Nemesis, the board game. Yeah. The Nostromo simulator. No, I did not see that.
Seems kind of cool, but apparently you needed the rule books to understand how to play it if you're a new gamer.
Oh, so it's just like a fan mod or something, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Well, not really, because it's a ridiculous amount of work, but I mean.
No, I actually think they are themselves are making it.
Oh, there are a couple of sort of things like that out there. Now the question is, how are we going to connect this thing when we actually print it out? What orientation? Is this machinery going to be on the build plate or not? Because this piece you would have to print out sort of standing like that. And this piece you would probably print out standing... This would be better if it was flat. So that means that we should keep it as a separate piece. But you know what? We need to get rid of this open log clip because I realized this has been scaled down to half size anyway. So let's do that. I have no idea what time it is. It's 3:54. I'm going to keep working on this until I've got something sensible today. So if you guys want to keep hanging out, I'm actually open toward that today as opposed to like, no. I don't like streaming, but I find it necessary to get in touch with people. There we go. So yeah, the idea I'm looking at here is just moving all of this over slightly. We can maybe get rid of an edge loop or two here. Let's try this. And that kind of frees us up to grab these vertexes, right? And just shorten this. And the idea being that we can then move this rib further in and basically move everything around so that it's going to be fitting onto this one plate here. So I want to shorten everything in a sense.
We got a comment that the terminal screen would be inaccessible currently.
The eternal screen.
I think that's the one. I'm like.
Oh yeah, that screen I guess we'll take out because it's in a redundant place.
Naughty.
Alright, so let's just get rid of that then. Good point. I'm guessing that could be one of our resident engineers there, pointing out the impracticalities of things, as engineers will want to do in the design phase. Fortunately, we don't need to be quite as precise because we're on such a small scale, and we can have some intersecting pieces. I have to be careful here too that I don't merge separate objects into the main ones because we want to keep them separate so that they're easy to manipulate.
Man, it's kind of painful to watch the topology that I've created.
Oh right, yeah. In some ways, this is good homework for you because I'm showing you how you should have done it. Not really. I mean, it's a good base, and this is still. Like, even if I do find some holes and some, what's this, Elvin? Some issues that we want to address, right? Actually, let's just take all of that off and retop that. Well, not retop that, but we're going to rebuild. Wait, why didn't that disappear? So I'm just going to do a fill hole here. Yeah, that hole belongs to Phil. Sorry, the dad jokes. I don't even have kids. That's the most fucked up thing. There we go. Let's close this off. So I'm just going to leave those as n-gons for the moment because they are like quite... they're in the shape of a rectangle and slicers won't have any issues really interpreting that. But now that we've gotten rid of all of these additional faces, we can actually go along to select the bottom and the top here.
So,
and we just bridge.
We got a comment here from John.
Yeah?
He said, I would like it to smell of lemons, please. I'm not quite sure what he's referring to, but sure, lemon smells nice.
I'm concerned now. Also because, like, I had something that was like lemons last night. And I'm wondering if he was watching through my window.
Ooh, sneaky.
Because, John, I could use a dog sitter. If you're going to be outside, you may as well make yourself useful.
Oh, Tamsin said she's not an engineer, but used to be a lab manager. Lots of science equipment seems fine in companies' development labs, but then you get it into a real working lab and a lot of dots.
I see.
Apparently, engine equipment should smell of lemons. You will add extract to the filament.
Wait, was that John or someone?
John continued about the lemon thing. So there was two comments that got mixed together.
Did they though?
Not really.
John might be slightly crazy. Don't tell him.
He can't visit Sweden because customs say he's a hazard to those around him.
Oh, John, your packages totally got stuck in customs.
Oh.
I paid for mine yesterday, so they're said now that, oh, it's coming
No.
sometime.
Man, I had a friend, speaking of some time, who got a engine failure on his car. So he had to tow his car to the closest workshop. And he has left it there and tried to get in contact with them for the last 2 weeks. And today he actually got in contact with someone. And they were a bit shocked that the car has been there for so long without being checked upon. So it took like 2.5 hours, and then they got back to him and said, your car is done. So they just changed his spark plugs.
No.
Fucking bullshit.
My wife's car is in at the moment. I hope it's
Oh.
actually something, because they've kept it for an engine light warning.
Mm.
I mean, to be fair, it's kind of good at the moment that she's not going to work, because she works 100 kilometers away. And with the price of diesel at the moment, that bloody 100 kilometers, 20 days, no, what is it, 40 times a month, because like, she's got to go 200k a day for 20 days of the month, assuming that there's 20 work days, right? It's 10,000 crowns.
That's insane.
That's approximately, what, $950 in fuel? No, more. It's about $1,050 in fuel.
Oh.
Just to go to work. And of course, if you do have to go to work, you get money back from the government. That money used to cover the price of the petrol and also a little bit extra to, you know, account for, you know, the wear and tear of your vehicle, to sort of like pay for general upkeep and maintenance, right? But no, it's like 1850 crowns, 18 crowns 50, and I don't know what the diesel is today, but it's been well up over 25 crowns. I think it's closer to 30, or has been closer to 30. Yeah, it's not good.
John said that his package is slightly trapped in customs because of how much it looks like a front for drugs. Who sends vomit chocolate?
Oh, thank you for revealing what's in there. Great. I used to like chocolate. Is it John's way of saying I need to lose weight?
I think that's...
It's like, here, it's bulimia in a packet.
I think told him that I was curious about the American chocolate, how it differ. Apparently they have a different procedure to produce the chocolate that give a slight aftertaste to vomit, according to us Europeans. So I don't know why I was interested in it, but it sounds so weird that you kind of want to know about it, I think.
You did send that in a separate package to him, right? Not to be ungrateful. Ah, that didn't work well. That cable's a wraparound cable. Bum, bum, bum. How do we do this? Alright, so we don't want to get rid of that. What we want to do is we'll separate this again into its own mesh. I'm having fun today streaming. Not that I never have fun with it, but I'm having more fun than usual. I feel respected and powerful.
You refuse to pay for extra shipping.
So you put 2 packages in one box. I don't even know if you sent it to my home address or work address. I didn't actually look when I was doing the declaration. I paid with my company though. Should I have done that?
It is for the... I think it's for... Oh, fuck!
What happened? Did Maya crash? Saving.
I almost deleted.
John, I'm well aware that I'm over time, mate. I'm deliberately being over time. But, you know, you get more Ben and Alban. What we used to call the Alban hour. I don't know why we stopped. I think because we were trying to run a campaign and it didn't seem very professional. Alright, so let's recombine this mesh. And what we'll do instead is we'll work on this side to make it look like it fits. But it looks like it fits now on this side. But I'm basically, especially now that we have this separately, let's get that separate. I'm actually going to delete this side because I didn't like the look of it.
Apparently it was for the work address, and he was confused that you had to pay.
Yeah, if you didn't like mark down what it's worth. That is a good point. Maybe it's not your package. I didn't even look. Maybe I should have looked. That's a good point, because normally we can import like 1,500 crowns worth before you have to pay duties. Oh no, I think it's like $100 or something.
I think that is actually 150 something, because I bought a present for my sister, and had to pay another 500 crowns in order to bring it to Sweden, because it cost 1,600 crowns.
Did you buy it from Ali G?
No, certainly not. I bought it from a jeweler in Great Britain.
Oh, jewelry for your sister. What kind of family do you have? Just kidding. I'm sorry. No. Alban just became a proud uncle.
Yep.
Is it your first uncleship?
Yes.
Are you actually proud?
I'm astonished.
What, you didn't think your sister could do it?
It's so weird when you actually see them. I haven't seen them in person yet, but I got a video clip earlier, and you can see Irma when she was.
We should explain that there are twins.
Yeah. So one of the twins were like kind of waking up, and she was like a little bit giggling at the same time as she was very, very tired and didn't really want to wake up, and it was incredibly cute. Then it felt weird.
It felt weird.
Yeah, that they actually exist.
Well, you would hope they really exist.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that say about your sister otherwise? She's been faking a pregnancy for the last 10 months or 9 months. So it came early, didn't it? Yeah.
That's even weirder.
It's weirder that they came early.
No, that someone would fake it that way.
We live in a strange world, Alvin.
Good point.
Some people be cray-cray.
Oh,
Maybe we don't need to change the length of this, actually. We can probably just move this forward, right? And that would put it flush. But doesn't this look like a nice little pump thing now? We just need something that makes it look like it's going into this. Yep. Yes.
So apparently he paid for shipping, put the stated value for $2.50, and that is what it cost, and he signed it was a gift.
Yeah, it cannot possibly be your package. Now, if I'm paying, let's see, I paid 125 crowns, unless there's like, because there's no trade deal with the US anymore, maybe it's related, but that still should not cost anything until you get to a certain point. I don't know. I just don't know. It's weird.
I don't know about that.
It could be something entirely different.
Hmm.
In which case, oh,
Maybe it's a witch.
I did order a Destroyed Tomahawk, but I don't think they're out yet.
Oh.
Maybe I should look and see if it
Thanks
came.
for the stream, guys. I'm off to the customs.
Who's going?
No, if you got a something that you ordered.
Oh right, yeah. Yeah, no, I can contain my excitement these days. In fact, I would almost say I'm hard to excite.
Hmm.
It's quite a challenge.
I'm not going to add anything to that.
Nope.
Instead, apparently there are people who juggles geese according to blasted camouflage.
That sounds like you're wishing for death.
Kind of. They are like murder machines on two legs.
I wouldn't trust a goose.
Would you trust a goose?
Certainly not geese. That means there's several of them at least. Could be a whole gaggle.
Oh man.
That's got to be one of the best animal with. You know what they use in Swedish to describe different groups of animals? The same word. Flock. Very original. You don't have a murder of crows, a gaggle of geese, a pride of lions. Although, to be fair, it does sound like convoluted Victorian bullshit.
Murder of crows. I mean, kind of interesting. How did that happen? Why did they pick murder for that word? Which came first?
Why do you think it's murder? Oh, classic Hot Fuzz. I have no idea. I realized I was about to formulate a response and then I was going to say something in Swedish. Although I can't speak Swedish.
Oh, okay.
No, I wrote something Okay, I cannot write Swedish. I wrote something completely unintelligible to my mother-in-law yesterday, and my wife bullied me mercilessly when she read it. We pretty much got into an argument over it.
Oh.
I mean, she's got a fair point. I've lived here for almost 20 years. But to be fair, learning a new language, it's not easy. And then it's also boring. So it gets to be a point where you stop paying attention. And that might have happened a bit too early. So I'm thinking the way that we actually solve this is we close off some of these bits and bobs. We're going to need some kind of way to actually like print this out. We might need to thicken up a few things. Like, for example, this base needs to be higher. So, oh wait, this isn't flush anymore, is it? No. Okay. So we want to move the pivot point and we'll put it in line with that. And we're just going to come down so that it is flush with the floor. So we can see how things look. That kind of looks... You know, I think if we put a loop in there and just do an extrusion, it's going to look semi-acceptable.
We got a few comments.
Oh no.
You are allowed to use group in English, or you can be fun and say flamboyance of flamingos. And Boston Camouflage, he likes his collective nouns. Everyone is willing to speak English where you are. I checked. Have you heard of the band? Got me kicked out of Sweden. And then they suggest you learn Klingon instead. It makes it fun to yell at the solicitors.
Maybe I'll learn that language from Star Trek The Next Generation, where Picard gets stuck on a planet with a dude that can only speak in metaphors.
Oh my god. So it's basically talking with Jesus.
No, it's like, what is it? Sarnak at the beach or some shit like that. It's like you meant to just string together sentences that are meant to evoke like stories.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what that person did in that story, and it leaves an impression of what the meaning is. But I never figured out how the hell they told those stories in the first place. But yeah, you'd need to be familiar with Star Trek: The Next Generation. You know, not the shit that they put out recently.
I haven't seen it actually. So
Don't watch it. No one should watch it. It's not Star Trek, is all I will say. Well, that obviously was not all I would say. But we don't want to ruin things. I really hope they don't do that with Voyager, because Lisa will be very upset.
Okay. Children of Tamba, his arms wide.
Yeah, I knew we could count on some of our members to know it.
Example, Juliet at the balcony represents forbidden love. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. But how do you explain that story if that's the way you communicate? How do you tell someone, the unrequited love thing, or not, or whatever,
Well, you could say Damak and Gilad and Panagra, or Damok and Gelot.
Oh yes, Damak and Chalord. I remember that one.
Shaka, when the walls fell.
Oh yeah, Shaka when the walls fell.
Oh my god.
It's funny that Albin has no context to this, and I'm like, yep, that's the one. That's the one.
I can't tell if it's me who is overheated or.
It is getting hot in here.
Yeah, god damn.
I started rewatching TNG, but I haven't got past.
Strange New Worlds is apparently amazing.
The thing is, it's only available here on Paramount Plus, and there is no way in hell I am paying for that. And I've been able to not be a pirate for quite a number of years now, and have like 5 streaming services already. So there's just nothing on Paramount Plus, and it's like every dollar. I think if you buy that, they're gonna assume you like Picard for some reason.
Oh.
Ugh. Oh my god, it's so disappointing. Also, Patrick Stewart doesn't know his own character.
That's kind of weird.
And they completely... Yeah, I should not get into it.
I mean, how old is Patrick Stewart now? He must be getting
103! No. But he'd be pretty close to 90, I'd reckon.
Oh, ban his STL's manifold.
What?
I had to say that, or they would be sad. I think it's what do you call it in English? The strange things we were talking about earlier, but that one concerns you more, I would say.
Oh, right, another saying.
Yeah.
Ben, his STL's manifold. Yes, okay, right. You guys get that context because you've watched Ben and his manifold STL files. But how would you explain that to a stranger? I'm just saying, there's loopholes. Well, plot holes. Not loopholes.
Plot loops. That's not a thing.
A bit of a stretch that the universal translator eventually figured it out, right? Oh, they didn't. That was the whole point. What am I saying? I can't remember. And as much as it's a referenced episode, I found it incredibly boring. I don't want to say it again. Oh, God. Oh, don't tell me that's not centered either. Look, that's sticking out the side real nice. And then this is further out. We'll make it straight so that no one notices besides the few faithful that are here. The hell was that?
That was my angst.
He's honest. This is why the show never goes past 4 o'clock normally. How many people are actually in the stream?
Like 6 people, I think.
Yes. We're living it up.
So much of Team G is bad, but the good parts make it worth it from season 2 to season 6. But season 1 and 7 do not exist. So kind of weird. I don't think I actually said that last sentence, I guess.
What?
I mean, they don't exist. How can I be talking about them?
I think it's kind of like when I say Star Wars ended at episode 6, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. I mean, there are lots of disappointing conclusions to shows that are beloved.
Disappointing.
But Picard is just pure nonsense. I'll say that. And I mean it. It is nonsense. None of it makes sense. The characters are stupid. Raffi is totally stupid. Which is a shame. But,
apparently people like it, but there is nostalgia to play.
how is it nostalgia to watch something like this? Is like you can.
I think they talk about season 1 and 7.
Oh right, yeah, that makes more sense. Like yeah, it's sad. It's just not. Star Trek is not intelligent anymore, at all. And the writers do not know how to write.
Yeah, that's kind of a trending theme in media all over, I think.
It's woke for wokeness' sake. It's just terrible writing, terrible. It does not take into account what has gone before, which is like, I mean, it's a time travel related season, and the characters in Star Trek have already traveled through time before and met characters they meet in the past that are reacting as if they've never met them before. To be fair, there are some changes, but like they never address it.
On to another subject.
Yes, let's get on to another subject because there'll be spoilers otherwise. Although, to be fair, you should not be watching Picard. No one should watch it.
They had a point though in the chat that if you watch Picard, the goodness go into strange new worlds. So I guess it's like throwing away all your bad dice if you're playing an RPG, whatever you call it.
I think I understand what you're trying to say,
Yeah,
Alvin, but
it doesn't make sense though.
not always. Not always. I get what you're trying to say, and that would be all well and good, but is it really that good? Is it like... I don't want to be one of those people because I really don't care about it, but like, I don't have problems with wokeness, quote unquote, being in shows, but they don't have to jam it down your throat or like just add it in when it has absolutely zero relevance to the plot, which is what they've done a lot with that, and that's where it really suffers, I feel.
The thing about the new something new. If you have a new alien, how many tongues should it have? 1 or 3?
A new alien?
a design.
I'm not following.
The Blossom Camouflage is making a new design of an alien.
How many tons should it weigh, or what?
How many tongues should it have?
Oh, tongues.
Yeah.
So you said tons.
Ah, sorry. No, he said, is 3 tongues too much?
Not really. If you've got a circular mouth and you had 3 tongues, I guess. It kind of makes me think of Stranger Things. They got better. Season 4 so far is much more gripping than season 3. Albin says, he has not watched it yet. Alright, so we want a little boxy thing there. So I'm just totally cheating here. I mean, I'm not cheating. Cheating. But I mean in the sense that we're not gonna make this make sense mechanically as such. We're just gonna sort of like make it feel like it fits. Because I really don't want to... You're not going to be able to see in here for the most part. We're going to leave most of this intact. But what I'm going to do is cut this off here somewhere and integrate it. So that... I guess basically what I'm looking to do is something like this, where we go and get rid of that. Right? And essentially we want to extrude this over here. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But it's still fun being here. And there we go. So we're going to just like sort of close this all off. So we want to get rid of these. Wait, how do we do this? Yeah, that's still one object. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So essentially we want a line there as well. I think we can actually leave this side in because you can see it goes around the corner. And that's actually going to look reasonable. We might want to put some kind of stand in, like a bolt sort of thing. I think these bolts are okay looking, aren't they? Don't have to go back and change all the old bolts. That can't be unseen. But let's just separate this again. But on this opposite side, we do want to get rid of that. And the easiest way we're going to have of that is to maybe just extrude down and see what we've got to take away. So actually we can, if we're going to have this all straight across, as was planned. Oh, that's unfortunate that that sort of intersects with this section. So I'm thinking maybe the easiest thing to do is to close off this sort of, if we slice maybe through here, and then we sort of like recreate that. So if we grab that, and then we just close this off, right? So it looks like it's kind of integrated into this boxy thing. We might want to do it a bit further up because it does look kind of ugly. We kind of need to do it further up here as well. So I'm wondering if maybe we just right here do that. So we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of all of this. And then I guess we get rid of all of this in between as well. It's hot in here. Delete that. We select this. We should then be able to delete that. grab all of this. Grab all of it, all of it. And then that. And then essentially we're just going to bridge these again. And in fact, I think we can mostly... We'll go all the way down here just because we can. So let's bridge that. So it essentially just makes it flat. So that there's no like... I guess these sort of ruts are more about like making the metal a bit lighter, right? So in this case, we don't care about heavy metal. In fact, we love heavy metal. And then we would do something similar on the other side, but we're actually cutting a lot of that out. So let's do another bridge. Boba Fett is before movie 7 to 9, but I was talking specifically about the movies. Boba is kind of shit, to be honest. It was alright, but like there are elements of Boba that were just, who decided this? And it feels like the answer was not the regular people. Like that motorcycle gang might have looked okay in Coruscant. It made no sense in Tatooine, and like someone pointed out the fact that the gang leader's like really pasty, white, pale on a planet that has 2 suns and is desert. Although they may have killer sunscreen in a galaxy far, far away. We don't know these things. Maybe she bathes in Bacta every night. But I was under the impression, at least in the old Star Wars role-playing games, Bacta takes were quite expensive. But, you know, that's the old days. You never know how people are dealing with things these days. So I think we're just going to cut all of that out. What are we doing on the other side? That's more of an issue. So maybe we actually cut that out again. And we make this box end there, but not... Maybe it's its own separate thing so that we don't have to take everything into account. Yeah, what if we do that? We just grab all this. We're going to separate that into its own section. We're going to grab, by isolating this again. This is a bit slow because I really need to delete the history. If we look at all these components, this is why it's lagging. For those who are not familiar with Maya. I'm just going to scale this back. And we can actually move this over a bit because this is actually... not the part that's, you know, making full contact. We're just going to pretend there's pipes and stuff in there. You're not going to be able to see it. We could make this form fit a little bit better so it's like less obvious. We might do that. So I'm just going to put a line through here somewhere. We're going to straighten it up. And let's get this isolated again. So we're just going to go back through here. We're going to delete some of these unneeded faces. And in fact, there's actually more than we... Like, all of this really is unneeded. If we delete that, we can delete that side. And I think this side is already free. So really, we just need to project that downwards. And it's alright if this intersects. It's not ideal, but it's alright. We will survive. So we're just going to grab this edge, grab that. Nope, we only want 2. We only want 2. And we're going to extrude downwards. 1 and 2. Alright. Do us a courtesy delete history again so that we're not using too much memory. Poor old Maya can't keep up. And then I think we'll actually just, since this follows the cylinder, we'll grab this and just do another extrusion. There we go, and again, there. It's starting to feel like we're close to the, oh, that wasn't even straight. Ow.
Ow!
And we're just going to start closing this all off. So really this is our little blocker. Ah. There we go. So we're going to do that. We're going to make it 2 divisions. No, 1, sorry. That'll give us this split here. And we want the split because we have this line that we need to align to. So we're just going to make sure that that is straight enough.
Apparently, Boba was better when it became Mando.
Yeah, it was great when The Mandalorian Season 3 started, halfway through the season. But, and, you know, the final episode with the, you know, I guess it's really getting past spoiler territory at this point, but, you know, the beastie in the conclusion, there's a beastie in the conclusion. I don't need to elaborate on that. That was a pretty cool scene. But I don't know. I was expecting more, to be perfectly honest, or at least like I don't mind the character development of Boba turning into this sort of like more peaceful version of that, but show me why he's changed from a ruthless mercenary into that. Like it could even be done with just a couple of lines, like, yeah, getting eaten by a Sarlacc, it really changed my perspective. That's all you have to say, really. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's true. Albin agrees,
Yeah.
as he's wont to do. It has nothing to do with his paycheck coming from me. It's all kosher. So let's just move this slightly in. We're in the home stretch now. We move that over there, and that looks like a nice little blocky thing, and we can actually come back now and close this back up again. So we want this to be where it was. So essentially we're going to create a block over there. Let's bridge these gaps. And then we'll bridge these gaps. And I'm just, when I do this, I'm doing like a select edge. It selects all the edges, and then I'm just taking out the side ones so that Maya can figure out where it's trying to bridge between. And now it's all right. It was just a slight lag. Okay. And then we're just going to take this little bit here, and then we're going to select these faces, extrude to there. We probably don't have enough of a gap in here, but otherwise I think we're at a Bob's your auntie stage.
Well, oh, I gotta admit, I wish I knew the context here, but John had a comment, or a few. His USB dock is failing, Mando as a kid, and you need more than that. You are wrong, Ben. And in parentheses he said, I'm all good. Next invoice is like a week, and he will forget about it.
You need more than that. You're wrong, Ben. Look, I buy the stuff that, you know, people read into who Boba Fett was.
More reason, I see.
What?
You need more reason than you survived what is called, that monster.
It's fine that you have a change of personality, but like from what I understand, right, there's about 5 years or so between the end of Return of the Jedi and the start of Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
So he was with the Tusken Raiders for 5 years. That's enough time to change your perspective on things, but then, like, you know, it's other stuff like...
I mean, like, if you think about Mr. M over here and his psychedelics, maybe it was something like that.
What?
Our next door neighbor. We're talking about that.
Anyway, we'll come back to things next week when we are a little bit clearer of mind. Right now, I'm probably going to detail this up just a tiny little bit more. But before we get started on a completely different subject, which is why I'm stopping Alvin, we're just going to focus on having a look at the main picture here. I think this looks nice and pumpy now. It looks like, you know, that feed is coming up here and it's somehow being fed into the jump drives, right? Compared to this dodgy solution on the opposite side. So I feel like we have accomplished what we were setting out to do. We still need a way to bind this to the floor. We haven't figured that side of things out. But I think this also does a good job of sort of like breaking up this really flat side here, so that, you know, you've still got a bit of access in here. It looks familiar without looking too much like, hey, this is not a pump. It's, you know, the fusion power plant. So what do you guys think? I reckon it looks serviceable. You made it, you say, like, we're running 41 minutes late. That's the reason why you made it. We're about to close. Ben, related question. Have you ever used filament as pipes and cables? I've used it to connect pieces. The problem with using it as pipes and cables is it's a specific size and then it's a bit fiddly to get it to move into place. It's not a bad idea. It's just like, how do you make it look like it's in scale? It can be done, and it doesn't look too bad. I've mostly used them for you know, turret connections on the 270 models. So yeah, I think now we've got something that looks like it can fit together. We don't have any really great lighting in this, so I might turn it off. And, you know, we've got those pipes flowing through now. We do need to do some additional floors to fit here. It's not ideal to squeeze past there, but, you know, engineers occasionally have to fit into tight spaces, and really this is just an access area. So if I turn the floor off, we take a look. Those pipes come down here, get fed into the tanks. The only thing I feel like I didn't really take proper account for is, like, if we wanted to leave some sort of channel through here where you can feed the wires for the lighting. But what I'm wondering is if you could potentially use one of these clip holes, or and have the actual wires just running through there, and maybe there's some way to tidy up the wires to make it look like they're actually a part of the ship. Or alternatively, we stick a battery pack in here, because I think that's 3 inches long. That's longer than an A4 battery, right? So you could potentially have like a little box with 2 A4 batteries in there and a switch on top, instead of having a second, you know, engine piece that just turns on the engine. But then at the same time, I'd really like to work with induction lighting. Anyway, I have rambled on for too long. This is Ben from Second Dynasty, signing off.